the third year and counting, Richard Skipper has been celebrating the artists you love.
And what are some of the things that you've really run out of time? And we've got to talk about your latest. I want to go back a little bit, first of all, and celebrate a true legend.
Richard Skipper is all about celebrating life, art, and his guest body of work.
And did you pursue performing opportunities while you were in high school?
Please join us while he showcases these diverse and talented individuals. Here's Richard Skipper.
Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to Richard Skipper Celebrates and the Friday Wrap-Up. We are going to wrap up this week, hopefully on a positive note. There's so much going on in the world right now, and I take a pause, and I think of everything that's going on around the world, and I send positive thoughts to each and every person out there, everyone who's watching the show, and beyond. And my heart aches for all the heartache in the world. And I also want to send positive thoughts to everyone out there who's watching. But we have to take time to also celebrate the good in the world. And there is a lot of good in the world. I'm also taking a moment to think about where we were 2 years ago today. I know exactly where I was. 2 years ago tonight, I was at the Laurie Beechman Theater seeing Jennifer Pace. And then all of a sudden, everything shut down. Little did I know that that night would be the last time that I would be seeing a live show for quite some time. And I think that it's given me an opportunity to step back and realize the things that we take for granted. We take for granted that when we get a flyer in the mail or we get an announcement for a show, that we're going to be able to buy a ticket and we're going to show up at the theater. And in the old days, the curtain would rise and we would hear the overture or not, and we would sit back and the show would begin. But it's not always the case. And I think now we take those things for granted, and it's time for us to sit back and really appreciate what those things are. Today, I have some very special people waiting in the wings. They don't know when I'm going to bring them on, but you're all in for a very exciting afternoon because I've reached out to some people who are making a difference in the arts, on all levels of the arts. And I'm going to start with someone who is a very dear friend of mine. He lives here in Rockland County. He knows now who I'm about to bring on. He is the Artistic Director of Penguin Rep Theater. And a couple of weeks ago, he reached out to me and asked me if I would bring on the show Robert Montano, who is doing a show called Small, which is opening at Penguin Rep. And everything that could possibly go wrong went wrong. But a testament to the fortitude of this incredible artist. He came back this week and we did the interview this past week. And I am so glad that he came on because it truly was one of my favorite interviews. It's a one-man show about his growing up in Long Island as a jockey. He was bullied. He left that world and became a dancer and danced on Broadway in shows such as Kiss of the Spider Woman, became very good friends with Chita Rivera, a name that I'm sure a few of you out there know, and has gone on to an amazing career in the theater. The word for today is creativity. And Joe, you know all about creativity. So first of all, welcome. And I want to take you back 2 years ago when everything shut down. Where were you when you were first hearing about this little thing called COVID?
The Penguin was producing at that time in a show that we did at Penguin up here and had moved to the city. We were in our off-Broadway run of Sabbath Girl by Carrie Gitter. And it was a very successful journey. We had been asked then to extend the run. And literally, for some reason, the theater goddesses were watching over Penguin, because I said, you know what, we have a season coming up. Let's not go for the extension. Let's do some regional work with it, send it out, and be blessed that we had a good run. And the next day was March 8th, and that was the day that they closed the theaters. We would have been at a tremendous loss if we had extended it. So I feel that in a perverse way, we were blessed during that horrible time. I must say that over the this period of time, as I look back on it, there were things that I was able to do that I had never had the time to do before, and good things. Reading some things, writing some things, cooking, eating too much, but just things that perhaps I thought I had just overlooked. Certain readings that I always said I wanted to read, or certain things I wanted to go through. A few closets got cleaned out, things that the real world, real people can do in some ways, and we as artists sometimes put aside to that laundry day in the distance that we think we'll do that something with, So we've even cleaned out things at the barn a bit. We have, in fact, I'm going to show you, I found this baseball here from our production of Cobb that we did, signed by David Canary. We did, dear David, who's left us, but always with us. We started that here before it was produced in New York for its long run. And then I found this, which you're going to love this. This is, wait, let me see if I can get it here. Can you see it?
Oh, yeah.
This is a Claret Cup. You see it? It's on this little thing. This is a Claret Cup that was actually William Hurd's Claret Cup from his production of Child Byron by Romulus Linney. Laura's father was a great playwright.
Wow.
And we did the first production here at Penguin, following that production at Circle Rep. And he gave me the Claret Cup to use in the production. So it's still here. So we got to unveil all these things in a time of COVID that we would have never had the time to discover, and literally remind us of these wonderful. The reason why we've come back is because I was kind of like, you know what, this is important. This has its value. This has its place, and people need this. And that's why we decided to fight this battle again with this current show, Small, which Robert Montano is absolutely brilliant in. And he's a real Broadway baby, gone from jockey at Belmont Raceway. His dreams were deferred, and he fell into dance. And then the rest was history for him. I mean, he's starred with everyone, directed by the top Broadway directors and Jerome Robbins and everyone else. And now he's presenting this story. And yes, we're very excited, because if you come any such night, some of those great people, his kind of godmother will be here, Sheeta, and some other wonderful guests. And we're great to be celebrating him as an artist, his career. And this is a way for us to reconnect. Hopefully people are ready to come back. I don't know yet. I don't know. Everything's up in the air, but we have to just continue. I often think of your sense of positivity. Sometimes it irks me when you're so positive, but it's truly.
Try living with me. Ask Danny what it's like.
I am sure, but I find I've called upon it for myself as a reference as well, and I think it's the only way to go, because otherwise, what's the alternative? And we have to keep doing it. So I want to thank you for doing your celebrations. Your celebrations go beyond the people that you interview. They really do help us all. So I want to thank you for that.
Well, I like to start our shows before I bring our next guest on, because we're going to do a roundtable discussion when I get everyone out here. But I start with a random question, and it's a question that I haven't even looked at yet. See, so I'm going to begin with a question. So God only knows what I'm about to ask you.
Okay.
But the question is, if you could visit any place in the world right now, where would it be and why?
Well, I would have, if it had been 2 weeks ago, I would have definitely said Paris, because it's my favorite city. And I just love being in Paris, walking the streets, eating a croissant, following a lady who looks just like a star because she does her scarf in a certain way, and she turns out to be a shopkeeper. Doesn't matter. It's all there. But because of I recently lost my sister, who meant the world to me.
And I'm sorry.
She and I loved our trip to Italy. So I would love to be in Cinque Terre on the coast, and I might feel her spirit there. And I think that's where, as long as you're my fairy godfather, and a very godfather, I would say that's where I would prefer to be at this very moment.
Well, I hope maybe the four of us can go there sometime.
That would be lovely.
That would be great.
Thank you.
I'm going to bring on our next guest, and I'm going to ask him. That's going to be a great starting point. He doesn't know that I'm going to bring him on, so surprise! There you are, Paul. You are. Paul and I know each other because of our love of Doris Day. Paul knew Doris very well. As a matter of fact, he has a wonderful book about his relationship with Doris Day. And we met because of social media. Isn't that right, Paul?
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
And, so welcome. Did you ever, have you been to Paris?
No, I have not. I have not. I've never been outside of the U.S. except for going to Canada to Expo 67. That was it.
I was there too.
Were you? I thought
Yes.
I remembered you from there. I think we waved.
I don't know why I'm so pink today, but maybe it's Doris Day.
Yes.
Doris Day gel on me. But I want to ask you, Paul, because one of my favorite places in the world that I went to, and I want to talk about it for a moment, was Carmel, which was Doris Day's home. And she truly made it her place in the world. And when we went there with our dog, Chip, and we stayed in her hotel, which was wonderful. And Joe, you're a pet person. What was really wonderful about staying in this hotel is when you checked in, a lot of the restaurants in Carmel will allow you to bring your pets because of Doris Day. And if you were not allowed on the one or two that did not allow pets in, they have pet sitters in the hotel. And this was all set up with Doris Day. But I stayed in her hotel because I always had this dream while I was there that I was going to walk downstairs and she was going to be there. Paul, how did you and Doris Day meet? You talk about it in the book, but how did you meet the first time?
The first time we met was in 1973. We had been pen pals since 1960 when I wrote her a letter to say, after I saw Please Don't Eat the Daisies, that if I didn't have my own mother, I'd like to have her for a mother. And she responded. It went to Doris Day, Hollywood, California, before zip codes and all of those things, and it made it to her. So we wrote back and forth for 13 years, and she kept saying, when are you going to come out? And I finally did. She invited me up to the house. So I arrived at the house, pressed the buzzer, and she answered the door. And we talked. She invited me in. She obviously didn't think I was a stalker. After I told her I'd seen With Six You Get Egg Roll 54 times. But she suggested we go out to eat. We went down to Nate Now's in Beverly Hills for our first meal together. And it was the first of 47 visits that we had over the years. She just, I don't know what it was that made us connect. And usually we didn't talk about movies other than my telling her I'd seen the film 54 times. Her response was, and you didn't get diabetes? But she said that's 54 more than she'd seen it, because she said, I worked on it for 3 months. I never watched it. But she just, for some reason, we found a connection, and it was lovely. It was just down to earth, and she was totally without pretense. The gold records, the awards, none of them were in sight. She had her needlepoint on display in her home. This was still in Beverly Hills, and her life was not about the film and the recording career, but about being a real person, getting on her bicycle and going down to, Roxbury Drive or wherever.
Well, that's the interesting thing. I mean, I've been very, very fortunate. Joe, you can say the same thing. And you too, Paul. In this business, those of us who have been lucky enough to rub elbows with these celebrities, and getting to know them as real people. And that's the operative word. They are real people. And Carol, too. Carol Channing, for those who don't know. Getting to know them as real people. What would you say would be the thing that surprised you the most about her that a lot of people would probably not really realize? We know about her activism when it comes to animal rights and everything.
Yes.
But what really surprised you beyond what people actually know about her?
Just that her work in films and everything, it was just a job that she did. She wasn't aggressive about pursuing it. Things came to her, and she waited for things to unfold, and she didn't worry about what was going to happen tomorrow. She lived very much in the day, and always felt that that was the only way to live, because otherwise, and she lived to be 97, I think, because she didn't focus and worry about competing with other people in the business. She never read the trades. She never, really got herself involved in the gossip. Most of her friends in the business were the makeup people, the wardrobe people, those behind the scenes, not necessarily the people you were familiar with on television or films.
And she kept those loyalties. And I do want to let everyone know that we will be celebrating her 100th birthday, which is coming up next month.
Yes.
Right here. So I'm going to bring on another Brogan, no relation whatsoever. And as you can all see, he's coming direct from the land of Oz right here. Scott Brogan has really, devoted his life to chronicling the life of Judy Garland. And there's a lot that's going on because this year, in addition to being the 100th birthday of Doris Day, is also the 100th birthday of Judy Garland. And there are a lot of events that are coming up. And Scott, so thank you both for being here to celebrate these iconic birthdays. Scott, I wanted to ask you about some of the major events that you are allowed to talk about, because I'm sworn to secrecy about some of the things that you have under wraps right now.
Well, Richard, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. And hello, fellow Brogan. And Doris is one of my favorites as well. I think if you love somebody like Doris or Judy, you like all of the great female singers, and there's so many. They're so wonderful. But yeah, this June is this is fairly well known. Is a big event going on in Los Angeles for the centennial of Judy Garland's birthday, and they're going to roll out the Judy Garland fragrance, which is a unisex fragrance. And Richard, you know the guy who made the fragrance that I always get his name wrong.
So Spinato. Yes.
Spinato, that's it. Okay.
Who I've interviewed here, yes.
Yeah, and also, in addition to that, there's going to be several other satellite things going on at the same time in the same venue, including a huge exhibition of costumes and outfits and posters and all kinds of memorabilia and that sort of thing. A lot of really neat stuff to be able to see firsthand. There are a few projects that I can't talk about just yet. I can say that there is a book that's coming out, and I don't know if it's going to come out in April or May. And it's I don't know if the authors will let me say the title of the book just yet, but it's not a biography. I'll put it that way. So that's something to look forward to. And
but we can say, without giving it away, that it is on one of her iconic films.
It is, yes. And it's one of her films that has never had a real in-depth look done aside from what you get as extras on the DVDs and things like that. This is going to be really neat. These authors have worked on this book for at least 2 years, and they've really, really done their research. So I'm really looking forward. I haven't read it yet, so I'm really looking forward to getting a copy of it and reading it. And then also for me on the website, thejudyroom.com, that's my shameless plug. I'm doing, since I have the website and I have the blog, which Richard, you talked about. It chronicles, has a section that's called On This Day. And so you can look at any day of the year, and you can look, it's a big page, and chronologically it shows what she was doing at any given time in any given year that we know of. And one thing I love about it is I've always loved timelines and chronological things. And what I love is since so much has become available online, we've been able to find out a lot of details and a lot of clarification on things when she did what USO tour, when she was in Battle Creek, Michigan, or when she was in wherever she was touring. And she really, I mean, there's something for every single day. I mean, she really did work. It's just incredible that, you know, not just at the studio, but with radio and personal appearances, especially during the war and all of that. But also really quick at thejudyroom.com proper, I'm doing my own Through the Years, and it's the story of her life. But it's done very interactive with multimedia, with audio and video and photos. And it's just the highlights because there's so many books about her. I could never write another book because there's so many wonderful books. I mean, it's kind of been done. But this is more of an interactive online thing that hopefully people can enjoy the highlights of her life, you know, and listen to audio clips and also watch video clips and everything. So I just finished, I'm up to 1938, so I have a ways to go. I'm going to go live this weekend with 1936 through 1938. I'm doing it in like little sections.
Wow. Well, I'm going to put you on the spot. What was she doing on this date in 1961?
Well, I just happen to have my little book right here. Because you asked me that before, and I didn't have an answer one time when you got me on the show, and you asked me before, and I can't remember dates to save my life. I have to look them up, and because I'm not a numbers person at all, so I'm going to.
So we're all going to find out, everyone.
Okay, this is wait a minute, hang on. You said 61, right?
1961.
Okay,
so this would be March 11th, 1961, and I know. Well, tomorrow is Liza Minnelli's birthday. So
yeah. Well, that was before 1961.
Well, I know that.
But she was actually in the middle of filming Judgment at Nuremberg.
Wow.
So in LA, I think.
Well, I have an interesting way of tying all of this together, and there is another major event that's coming up in Manhattan, and there's a major show on Broadway, maybe you've heard of it, called Wicked, which tells the story of the witches before The Wizard of Oz. And they are going to be celebrating Stephen Schwartz, who was responsible for bringing this show to Broadway. And you need a special witch, I mean that in a very nice way.
Witch.
A good witch, a very good witch. And that's Carolyn Montgomery, who is bringing this incredible evening together. So, Carolyn, that was the segue.
Well, that was wonderful. I'm a little muddled, but that's fabulous.
So, Carolyn, in addition to being a great entertainer, but let's focus tonight on this major event that you're doing. And let's talk about the road that led you to the ASA, the work that you're doing for the ASA, the American Songbook Association, cabaret scenes, and leading up to this event.
Yes. So I started off, actually, the American Songbook Association was incorporated 4 years ago. And my son is giving me a kiss on the top of the head. Goodbye. He's leaving for the evening. I have a 17-year-old, Eli. So I started off with the ASA as their Director of Education and Outreach, bringing American musical legacies, which for us are jazz, musical theater, and the classic American songbook, old and still being written, to all 5 boroughs of New York City's most underserved schools. And we had Broadway and cabaret performers going in and teaching these kids about improvisation and about musical theater. And it's just been a highly effective program. But from there, in the 4 years that I've been there, I have gone from being their Director of Education to their Executive Director. That just happened, which is my pleasure and my honor. And it is going great guns. We are doing a lot of great work, educating kids, enriching the lives of seniors, which we have programs scheduled all the way through 2022. And we go to underserved places and bring this music to them. which to us feels right.
So I want to talk about this gala evening. You're going to be honoring Stephen Schwartz.
Yes.
And from everything that I'm hearing, because I keep hearing these incredible postings on Facebook about how nice he is.
He's
It seems
unbelievable.
to me like he is just hands-on in terms of this whole event. So
he really is, and he is humble, and he is always seems surprised that so many people wish to show up and honor him. And he, sorry,
that's him calling now. Hi,
and we are some of our greatest donors are getting ads in our gala program, and also seats, premium seats, which our platinum seats are $300 each. This is a fundraiser, and it is paying for our education and senior enrichment programs. But Stephen gave stanzas of music that are signed by him from Wicked to some of our biggest donors. And he said, which ones, would be your favorite? And I said, well, of course, Magic to Do, because I played the leading player for about 16 weeks one summer many years ago. And along with the 10 pieces of music that he wrote out for our major donors, he wrote one out for me that had Magic to Do and signed it. And it was so sweet for him to even remember. I cried. It's getting framed. You know it.
So when you're putting together an evening like this, what is the starting off point? Did you have, with all due respect to Mr. Schwartz, did you have other options just in case? Or did you say, this is where we want to start and you go with this? How did you start off with this?
Because we're in New York, we have myriad wonderful choices. We have had Sheldon Harnick. We had Marilyn May as our first Lifetime Award winner, and Stephen was our first choice. And we were so lucky that he said yes. And then, of course, had this huge COVID resurgence. It was supposed to be February 28th of 2022. We had to reschedule. We did lose a few of the tribute performers, but we kept Stephen, and that was the greatest thing, to keep it to May 9th. So that's really exciting. And Wendy Sherrill is our gala committee chair, and she's watching today. Hello, Wendy.
Hello, Wendy.
So fabulous. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned earlier the Great American Songbook has not stopped, and it continues to go on. And I want to talk about an amazing singer that I am getting to know. And she is waiting very patiently in the wings. And Judy Cheek has a brand new single out that I listened to last night. I am telling you, what an incredible voice. And here she is, Judy Cheeks, direct from Texas. And we're thrilled that you're here, Judy.
Well, thank you. Happy to be here.
Here we are. We're talking about Judy Garland, Doris Day, and Stephen Schwartz. But you, in addition, you've shared stages with Elvis Presley and Tom Jones, Stevie Wonder. But more importantly, they have shared stages with you.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Yeah.
You forgot Tina Turner.
Yes, of course.
She would be angry for being forgotten.
No. So I know that you grew up, your father, very well-known minister, you grew up listening to that music. And I just interviewed Sam Harris last week, and he grew up listening to that music.
Yes.
Where did that love of performing first begin for you? Did it begin in the church for you as well?
Well, quartet gospel, which is really the bedrock of all modern day music. It has influenced every genre of music, but it's never really received the acclaim that it deserves. So my father was one of the pioneers, one of the legends of that. And people like Sam Cooke, Wilson Pickett, all these people, everybody started in the church, but quartet gospel was a very special form of gospel music. It was different from the music sung in churches and stuff. It was, it had the guitar, the instrumentality was very minimum. So, it was the thriving rhythm, but more than that, it was the spirit of what was being done. So having grown up around people like Mavis Staples and, Sam Cooke was my godfather, you had all these people around me who, it wasn't about stardom. It wasn't about having a hit record. It was about, this is my calling. This is what I was put on this earth to do. So even though I've been singing, my first album was produced by Ike and Tina Turner when I was straight out of high school, but I never had this earning to this, oh, I want to be a star. It was never want to be a star. It was like, I want to sing because that's what I'm put here to do. So with the gift that you've been given, is a responsibility. And for me, it's entrenched in love and the spirit by which my gift was given to me is what I feel that I have to share, not so much a hit record. When I write a song, I believe singing is storytelling and stories from your heart, So the new single that's coming out Monday, Same Pain, talks about everybody's pain. And it says the tears all fall the same. And that's exactly it. That's the message of, you can call it my ministry, is to help people to recognize, that we are united. We're united in love, which will embrace the pain that we're all suffering. So that's how we help each other.
I read a very interesting article this morning, and it put something in perspective for me. And this artist said, it's a matter of finding our space, finding the space that we belong in, because so many of us are always struggling to figure out what is the space that we belong in. I mean, just the other day, I was having a conversation with someone, and I said, on this hand, I feel like I'm doing all the right things. I feel like I am doing everything that I should be doing in my career. But on this hand, I question, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing that's not getting me to this level? What am I doing that's not getting me to that audience, getting me to that next step? And then in today's paper, I'm going to pull this up because this was my horoscope today. And I want to read this to everyone. And if I can see this in the light, and it says, the secret to success is, it says, the thing.
Read it as Carol.
No, I'm not going to read it as Carol. Those days are gone. The secret to success is, there's no secret. The secret is to do it, improv, do it again, try it again, improv, do it again, and perhaps someone will buy it. Do it again, improv, and perhaps someone will buy it. And that's it. I mean, you just keep putting it out there and hoping. I mean, you have to believe in what you're doing, obviously. It's subjective as to whether or not the buyer is going to buy it. I'm watching this incredible documentary on Netflix about Andy Warhol.
I watched it last night. Yeah.
Isn't it amazing?
Oh my
And I mean,
God.
This is the man who created his own success out of nothing.
Nothing. It was amazing. Yeah. And those scenes where his whole thing is that he wanted to be beautiful, and he knew he was Miskite. So what he did was he just kept putting on that scene where they're putting the makeup on him over and over. It was as sad as it was inspiring, as it was everything. You went from, and recognizing some of those, some of us are old enough to remember those days, and to see certain people who knew him and worked with him at the factory and their lives. It's a very worthwhile documentary. I think it was just amazing.
Did you see all the episodes?
I saw the first two. I'm about now. I had to go to bed.
I watched part one last night. I'm watching the next two tonight. So
yes, that's
what I recommend it. It's just an incredible story about the creative process, and that's and like I said, creativity. I want to ask each of you, and I'll start with you, Joe, since we're there.
Yeah.
You run a theater. How many years has Penguin Rep been?
40 years, 41 years. Yeah. I started it when I was a teacher, a student teacher in this area. I got out of the service, got my degree, and then my senior year, I started student teaching at North Rockland High School, got a job there. And then I recognized that there were certain students who seemed so incredibly gifted, and it turned out they were the children of missionaries, and they lived on this plot of land called the Stony Point Conference Center, where missionaries would get oriented towards where they were going as Presbyterian based. And I saw this old barn on the property, and I said to the minister there, because I used to do shows in the alleyways in the Bronx, and when I was 9, 10 years old, I'd stage shows, and I did the best Stations of the Cross, by the way. My Stations of the Cross was better than the original, just saying. But anyway, I was on board ship doing it. And then I saw this barn and I said, I think I could start a theater. And this minister said to me, well, then go, kid, go do it. And that man, Reverend James Palm, who's left us, has always stood to me, that was my particular angel, as what we try to do with our interns on a daily basis. They come in here, some of them aren't in school doing what they're supposed to be doing, whatever, but they find amongst artists, working with professional artists, they find focus and growth. And I always remind everyone, whatever they're doing, if it's wrong, just say, good, try it again, be positive. Because if that man wasn't positive for me, this theater, which is, we originated Finding Neverland. We commissioned that as a play originally from Alan Nee. Our production of Cobb went on with, thanks to our angel, Kevin Spacey at the time. He was our angel. He took it to New York. We've done a lot of shows. Bessie Smith, the Devil's Music, Mickey Braden, which traveled all over, all out of this barn. And so it started here, at the theater. And here we are. We're sitting here rehearsing a next show behind me. And it brings me great comfort. Some people have temples, some people have churches, some people have synagogues. I don't know. I have the theater. It's always been my altar.
And what about you, Paul? You, with your own work, you've written a book. You've got another book coming out as well. When it comes to creativity, and over the trajectory of your life, has it gotten easier, or has it gotten harder? You also have seen the creative process through the eye of a major star. What are your concepts of creativity, both through your own eyes and the eyes of someone on that major playing field?
Well, Doris is the one that actually advised me when I turned 45 a few years ago, that, I was saying, I'm not sure what I want to do. I'd been in the kind of daily job and the kind of thing that a lot of people are very happy doing. But she said, a turning point for her was when she got involved with animal activism. And she said, this changed the trajectory of my life and its purpose. And she never looked back, never took another job in the entertainment business. And she said, you need to do that. You need to find your place. And she said, you have to look at life as a buffet table with all kinds of offerings. Now, you keep going back and getting the thing you're most comfortable with and enjoy eating all the time, or do you step outside and try a dish that might not necessarily be to your liking, but it might lead you in another direction? And so that's when I became involved very much with AIDS. And that I was enabled to bring people like Carol Channing and Eileen Fulton and Greg Louganis and Jack Jones and others to Concord, New Hampshire, to put a new face on AIDS. Because in New Hampshire, AIDS was, when Rock Hudson died, the state newspaper headlined it, Sodomite Hudson Dies. This is in 1985. So I wanted people that might not write out a check to donate to an AIDS organization would pay $50 to come to see someone. And when you had someone like Jack Jones or Carol standing up there saying why they came to New Hampshire and what the purpose was, people often saw an entirely different viewpoint of the epidemic. and in many cases decided, okay, I'll write out another check and donate because it seems like I misunderstood what this whole thing was about. And so that was a real opening to allowing me, I can do more than I think I can than sit in an office and type 125 words a minute. I can be doing something that it is much more representative of what I was feeling inside.
That's wonderful. And what about you, Scott? When it comes to creativity, I know that you know, it's very, very funny because when for the brief moment, and it was a very brief moment, when I performed as Judy Garland, I got such a backlash in the cabaret world because Tommy Femia was well established.
Yeah.
And so, you know, Lenny Watts, God bless him, said, for God's sake, there's enough room for 2 Judy Garlands on an island. You know, so let's give both of them space. But I felt that there was a lot of animosity from people who felt that I was encroaching on his territory. You and I have had conversations, so I'm gonna go there. There are a lot of people who feel territorial in a field, you know, when it comes to an icon like Judy.
Sure.
How do you navigate those waters?
Oh, wow. Well, how many hours do we have for this? Well, it's interesting because for me, you know, my whole journey has been, I've always been a big theater kid, you know, theater queen, for lack of a better term. I was in dance. I was in a dance company, you know, so Joe, I can relate a lot to what you said about, you know, to me, theaters are like churches for me. And when I see one that's run down or, you know, and everything, I just want to cry. I just feel it's so sad. But but I've always loved her, Judy Garland. I've always loved her voice. And that's what it is. It's the voice that gets me. It's the performances, because people will ask me and say, well, what is it about her that you like? And I say, it's the voice. It just, I get that little tingle, you know, that when you listen to something. And it's not just her, but anyway, yeah, navigating that whole world, it's interesting because until I got on the wonderful world of the web, I only knew a few really hardcore fans, you know, because I didn't live in New York City or in LA or in San Francisco, you know, the big cities. So where there was a much bigger network. And so I got online and I started the website, which started very, very small in 1999, if you can believe that. And back when you had to do your own coding and everything. So anyway, I digress. But anyway, it was very strange how people are very, very territorial about her in many different ways. And some people want to be the all-time world's biggest expert about her and everything. And I'm not. And I tell people that all the time because people will say, oh, well, you know everything. And I say, no, I don't. I mean, and what I know, I learned from other people who wrote books and did research and everything. And then I started doing my own research. You know, I always tell people nobody knows everything about someone, especially someone that you didn't even know anyway, because I was 8 when she passed away. So, which I remember very distinctly. But yeah, it's interesting because when I went to the auction of the Lost Decca records down in LA, the auctioneer or the woman at the auction house that I worked with on that, she and I talked about that a little bit. And I said, I don't know, what is it about, you know, some of the people who are like very, very mean spirited about it and are very, I hate to say, you know, I hate to be negative, but, you know, very backstabby and all of that, you know, when they don't even know you, like they only know you online. And she said, for some reason, she said she sees that with Marilyn fans and with Judy Garland fans. And she said, she thinks it's because they had such a vulnerability that people feel so protective of them. They feel like they're the only person, whether it's subconscious or conscious, that can be the gatekeeper, that can be the one that protects the legacy, and anybody else is competition and anybody else is mud, kind of thing. But
Scott, I work with, and Richard knows this very well, with Jim Bailey.
Yeah,
and Jim,
he was great.
I think it's hard to have this conversation without even mentioning his name, because Jim, he played Mae West for us in a project, a musical about Mae West. It's on actually YouTube. You can see it. But it was amazing because his insight, as I saw him do it at Carnegie Hall. I saw him be Judy at Carnegie Hall. He was deeply entrenched in that. And then, of course, because remember when he was dating Lucy Arnaz, when Desi Jr. was dating Judy's daughter,
Liza. Right. Yeah.
It was, he has stories that, you want to call me Scott? Richard and I will share them with you, but there are stories there that are unbelievable.
Oh, I can imagine. I've got stories too. I mean, and Jim Bailey was amazing. I saw him in, I think it was the late 80s. He came through. I was living in Phoenix at the time, and he came through and he basically did the Carnegie Hall concert. And we were just completely blown away at how amazing he was. I mean, he sang live.
Yes, I know. His voice.
Could I just say that
had him open for her. Streisand asked him to open her Malibu concert as her in Malibu. That's how much of a genius he was. His Peggy Lee and everything. But anyway, sorry.
Yeah. That's okay.
I just wanted to say that Jim came to New Hampshire 10 times to do benefits for AIDS service organizations, and he raised more than $300,000 through those concerts for people in New Hampshire, unrestricted monies. And he was a joy to work with, and he just was one of the sweetest, nicest human beings you could ever want to meet. And audiences were mesmerized. I mean, truly, it was the closest any of them would ever come to seeing the real Judy.
Oh yeah, he was just amazing. And that's one thing I will say. Ever since getting online and as my website grew and became more popular, I joked with Richard about this. I said, so did the target on my back, which was, because there's a lot of jealous people out there. But for me, and that's why I even say it on the website, it's celebrating her life and career. And that's what it is for me, is just celebrating her and giving some of that back and sharing what I have or what I can share with everyone. And I have to say, I wouldn't do this if it was all negative. I mean, I wouldn't, I've met, like all of you guys. I mean, I've met so many wonderful people and made new friends and wonderful people that I never would have met if I hadn't done the website or helped out with these liner notes or whatever, or this release or that release. And it's a lot of fun. And actually it's my creative outlet, because I've always been very creative, very artistic. And so web design is my way of sort of sketching now. I used to always have my sketch pad and everything. And now I do everything, try to make it look all beautiful and perfect online. So I hope that answers your question. I don't know.
Yes, absolutely. And Carolyn, I want to ask you also about creativity. You are an amazing entertainer as well, and you've worked on both sides of the fence. Do you get the same satisfaction from the jolt of creativity, from being behind the scenes, so if you will, that you get when you're out there in the spotlight?
It's different and it's great. And one of the things that I've learned in my dotage, you get to a certain age and hopefully you've learned something. And because I didn't always have the luxury of performing all the time, I'm a single mom of a son that I put through private school, and I'm now putting him through college. However, one of the things I learned is that we shouldn't have any preconceived notions about what kind of creativity we want to manifest, because whether or not you are writing liner notes, as Scott says, or running a theater when you used to be out on stage all the time or whatever, if you can let your creativity channel up through you, you can find, look, over the pandemic, I taught culinary classes online. That's how I paid tuition. And I had a wonderful time. 20 years ago, I wouldn't have. 20 years ago, I'd be saying, I need to be in front of a microphone. This is crazy. I must be singing. This is not what I'm for. Well, it is what I was for. And I was lucky because I was able to make a living. I taught people how to make everything from pizza to truffles to fresh mozzarella to cocktails and they had such a lovely time. And now I'm able to go back to singing, which is, I love it. It's what I want to do, but I love everything that I do. And my creativity can blossom and it can grow and it can improve. And then you just make more, so that's where I am with it.
That's great.
That's true. I mean, Carolyn brings up a good point. You can find creativity just about anywhere.
That's right.
Somebody is so good at like cooking. Like I'm not a very good cook, but I discovered, similar to you, that I enjoy baking.
Yep.
And that's another creative outlet.
But like Judy said, Judy brought it up before when she said about if you're blessed to be a creative person, there are some people, we tend to generalize and talk about it as a common gift that everyone has. I know this sounds awful, but everyone doesn't have it.
No, you're right. Absolutely.
Some of us are truly blessed to know that we have it. We have something that we don't, and as you've pointed out, Carolyn, with COVID, you found it came out in another pipe.
Yeah.
It came out in a different way. And that's the blessing that we've all been given. And in this time, especially, and even post-COVID with the world in the state that it is, the precarious state that it's in, it's sort of like, I think back to the, what's the old, the movie that was originally done, and then Mel Brooks did it later about the flight from the Nazis for the artists.
To be or not to be.
To be or not to be.
Yeah.
But originally with the brilliant
Jack Benny.
Jack Benny.
Wow.
It was a great film. And then later, Mel Brooks did it with Gypsy from Gypsy's Club. I'm too old. Gypsy's Club on the East Side. He ran that. He got the part. But it was, again, the story of artists under this incredible regime going out and trying their best to survive and running from and being, and yet they're the fact that they could sing and entertain, and they knew what their blessing was, and they saw to it that it came out in some way. And I think that's what Judy was kind of speaking about. You have a responsibility. Like when you said that, Judy, it really touched me because we have a responsibility. That's what we have.
But I think also if you're a creative person, if that spirit of creativity flows through you, you have gifts that you're not even aware of. During the pandemic, I didn't know I could draw a straight line, and I ended up painting. And I would post some of my paintings on Facebook, and people would say, "Oh my God, Judy, you're great." And I'm like, "Huh? What? Really?" And I have a friend who's an artist, and he said to me, "Judy, you would choose the hardest thing in the world to paint, which is portraits." And because when I paint someone, I feel that spirit, oh, go away.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one.
I know. And I think when the spirit of creativity flows through you, there is just, like I said, the responsibility to let it flow. But it's also why I don't understand why there is any bigotry or racism in anyone who is creative, because once you felt that power, that love, that energy that is in creativity, and it flows, it doesn't come from us, it comes through us. And it's our responsibility to let it flow to everybody. And whether you touch 20 million, 1 million, or one person, that one person can mean a difference in millions of people's lives. Like how much time do we have?
You can go. Keep
Richard,
going.
I told you, this friend of mine, beautiful friend, Sean O'Shea, I had a little hit, in the 70s, Mellow Lovin' and The Little Girl in Me. And in South Africa, it was a huge hit. And he was 12 years old. And he just fell in love with me. He said he would just stare at my posters and stare at my album covers and blah, blah, blah. I didn't know he existed on the other side of the world. He is now my best friend. And he reached a point in his life where he was really ill, and they sent him home to die. And I prayed for him, and I said, "No, you're going to live. You're not going to die." And I started writing him songs and just sending them to him. And he said, "Oh my God, Judy, I feel such healing in your voice." He said, "The world has got to hear this music. Why are you just keeping them, So guess what? we started putting out all these songs, and then all of a sudden I'm hearing from fans I didn't know. I mean, for me to have one fan, I thought was remarkable. But I'm finding out that people all over the world know about, this, and that's because you don't have to seek fame, and what the world deems as success has nothing to do with the spirit of what our gift was meant to, spread. So I don't get hung up on popularity. I don't get hung up on, how many likes, how many, it's like if I've touched a soul, and that's what you do, Richard. The fact that you want to spread positivity, look at that smile on your face. You're glowing with such love and beauty. No, this is what we have to do. This is how we're going to heal the world. We can't heal the world being angry and being frustrated and putting our priorities in the wrong place. If our priorities are in the box of how much money do I have, what kind of car do I drive? Guess what? When they put your butt 6 feet under, can you carry any of that with you?
No.
No. But if you've touched the lives of people, even one person who can make a difference, who can bring people back into the spirit of love, then you're a success. Then you're a star.
That's wonderful. That's beautiful. I'm going to bring this screen up here and see if we've got, 5 people have done the hashtag creativity. We're going to give away a free subscription thanks to Carolyn. Carolyn, can you tell everyone a little bit about Cabaret Scenes Magazine and what the winner is going to get?
Sure. Cabaret Scenes Magazine is a 26-year-old publication devoted entirely to live music. It has reviews of jazz, musical theater, and cabaret. And we have reviews that come from Scottsdale. Well, they come from Arizona. They come from LA. They come from Chicago, London, and very heavily based in New York. So one magazine every 2 months. Stephen Schwartz is on, and Amanda McBroom is on our latest one. And all we'll need from you is your snail mail address when you talk to Richard, and we'll make sure that your subscription starts right away.
And I am going to do this. I'm going to hit the draw button, and then I am going to pull my hands up here so that you know that I am not going to draw a name. And Pam Stubbs.
Pam Stubbs is the winner.
Well, I'm going to tell you something about Pam. She wins all the time, but you know what? She comes to all of my shows.
She deserves it.
Yeah.
She deserves it. She shows up. Pam, I love you. She shows up for every.
Oh.
So she lives in Maryland, and she has won books and mugs and magazines and everything. So thank you. It means a lot to me. So I want to thank you all for being here today. I want to thank everyone who showed up. I know that I can speak for every person who's here. We don't take it lightly when you show up. So thank you for showing up. Don't let it stop here. When you go to my YouTube channel, you're going to be able to get links to everyone that's on this show, and you'll be able to follow them. I will have links on my YouTube channel, on my Facebook page, on Twitter. I'm going to keep putting information out about all of you. So please stay in touch with them, follow them, stay in touch, see them. If this was your first time at Richard Skipper Celebrates, please don't let it be your last. Please subscribe to this channel. Tell your friends about this channel. That's how we keep afloat. Go out and tell other people about it. I also end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Go to your Facebook friends list and pull up the second name, and then reach out with a phone call. Not an email message, not a text message, not a private inbox message, a phone call. And let that person know what they mean to you. As my dear friend Sean Moniger, I thought it was David Friedman, but Sean said it was him. Sean Moniger says, we're all in this together, but we're not in the same boat. And I always say, if you're going to go out in a boat, make sure you bring a skipper along. Now, I'm going to leave the screen, and I'm going to give each of you a chance to have your final word today. It could be anything about anything that we talked about today that you want to build upon. It could be anything that we didn't talk about that you wish that we had, or it could just be any message that you want to leave everybody with today. And don't worry, we're going to start with you, Joe, and then after Joe, Paul, followed by Scott, followed by Carolyn, and then Judy. You're going to have the final word today. And when you say goodbye, the final credits will roll. So you don't have to worry about it. How is this thing going to end? So everyone, I'm going to leave the screen. And Joe, you've got the platform. Thank you all for watching. And I will be back here tomorrow at 3:00 with Albert Poland, who has an incredible book called Stages, all about his work in the theater. And it's an amazing book. I hope you'll come back. Thank you. And Joe, it's all yours.
Thank you, Richard. Oh, it's so lovely to do these things. It really is. It's a reminder that we're not alone, because that's often the feeling. I know we're singing the praises of being blessed as artists, but boy, you can really feel mighty alone sometimes. This was great because I went on judyroom.com. That's not the, what is it? Judy Room?
It's thejudyroom.com.
Well, try judyroom.com. Something entirely different comes up.
Okay.
So I wanted to clarify that.
Oh my God, I have never tried that actually. I'm a little afraid.
Not judyroom.com, not Judy Room. Okay, good. So I'll be following up with you. And it's so wonderful, Carolyn, to meet you. This is what's lovely about these things that he does, even on the immediate level here and then beyond, we get to meet. And I wanted to tell Carolyn about Paul Shapiro had done some of the music from Fiddler on the Roof in Warsaw, Poland, and he did it in such a hip, klezmatic kind of feel way that we've commissioned him to do a piece called Far From the Home I Love, a kind of an unorthodox concert of all the fiddler music sung by incredibly gifted multicultural singers, and we're going to be doing up at Penguin, only about 40 minutes north of Manhattan, so I'll be in touch with you.
Please, and you should invite Sheldon and his wife as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just so nice to connect with you guys. When you speak of Doris Day, I was like taken back because I knew her early work as a singer. That's how I knew her as a singer, and I kind of fell out of those movies. That wasn't my thing. But those songs and standing in front of a mic and singing those tunes, if you listen to them today, she was an incredible vocalist, you know?
Yeah.
And to me, the only thing that Judy Garland meant to me was that she got to sing with Streisand. That's what I think.
Oh, come on. Judy was a bomb.
Sorry, I'm only kidding. Oh my God.
That was amazing news, though. At least you've got good taste.
Talking about crazy people. Crazy people. You're all crazy. I love you all so much. I thank you for this time, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you guys, and that would be so nice.
Great. You're lovely.
Look me up on Facebook.
Take care, Joe. Lots of love. Sending love, special love to you.
Thank you.
This has been wonderful. The nicest hour I have spent in a long time. I mean, truly exhilarating. I feel such a connection with all of you. It's my first time on the show, and I hope that I will maintain a connection with all of you, and someday we'll get to just sit down together in person and just have a gab session that goes on into the wee hours. I promise I'll bring my keyboard or something like that, and we can sing or do whatever. And Scott, I love your last name. But anyway, I love hearing what all of you and Joe, who's off right now, had to say. And I really am inspired by your stories and the things that you're doing with your lives. And I think as I mature, I even more appreciate the value of listening to people and listening to what they have to say and what they have to share. And it just brings a real richness and a fullness to life. So thank you all. I really do love you all. And I will stay in touch, and I hope that we will definitely meet again. So
We will.
have a good weekend and stay well.
Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, well, now I guess it's my turn. It's just the three of us. Okay.
I know.
That's hard to follow. I echo everything that they said, and I just have to say it's so great meeting you guys because I've never met you before. And so I'm excited to learn more about you. And also, I'm just excited that we got a chance to talk about creativity and everyone's singular creativeness, because everyone has, I think, a creativity for something. You know, it doesn't have to be performing arts. It can be, it can be cooking, like you had mentioned, Carolyn. It can be anything. It could be photography or whatever. But I think that, Richard touched on this a little bit, that, in this crazy time, I think that, just celebrating creativity and art and the music of people like Doris Day and Judy Garland and everyone else that we talked about, and you too, Judy. But I just think that that's what we should be celebrating, because that's what brings us all together. And if we're ever going to make it through anything, it's going to be together. And so let's all just keep sending those positive vibes out there. And everybody who's watching, just do unto others. I mean, that's what I always tell people. That sounds so simple, and we've heard it a million times, but it's really true. If you put it out there, it's going to come back on you. So
Absolutely.
Anyway, I don't have anything else to say except, it's the Judy Garland Centennial. Woo!
Oh, I love Judy Garland, so I will be checking out that room.
I do too, right? Yeah, she's all right.
All right, listen, be safe, okay?
You too. Yeah, be safe.
All right, take care. Lots of love.
What I love about all of this is that we are all saying the same thing. And my preamble is to say that it's been lovely to meet all of you. Judy, lovely to be sharing a split screen with you.
Yes.
Artists have
left the girls
That's
alone.
right. Artists have a blessing and a responsibility. And the truth is that the fuel behind every bit of creation is love. Yeah. And the truth is, what this world needs now is a hell of a lot more of that.
Yes.
So all I can say is, very similar to what everybody else has, if you have been blessed with creativity and you're able to bring it out into the world and touch anybody with it, no matter what you're doing, we need it. Right now, we really need it. And so that's what I have to say to you. I hope I see all of you on May 9th at this wonderful gala celebrating Stephen Schwartz. But if I don't, know that I love you and I wish you well.
Thank you, Carolyn. Be safe. Nice meeting you. All right. So I'm left. I just want to thank Richard for this opportunity to come and say hello to everybody and to meet such wonderful people. There's something about creative people. You just gel, But I think the message from this day is love. It is love. We must spread love, and we must all, take our responsibility seriously, the responsibility of just showing humanity and love and, just care about each other. And let's send some love to Ukraine, to the Ukrainian people. They're being very brave and everything. And it's something that we can't just ignore. So there's power in prayer and there's power in love. So let's use that. Let's use that, not for ourselves only, but for everybody. So be safe. Have a lovely weekend. And I love you. Bye. Richard?